Hello there, my name is Jordan Leroy Hansen, also known as LedDev, and surprisingly, we got a few spoilers this weekend, so I figured rather than adding it to the Monday video for a Sunday video, I decided to just essentially give my quick opinion on these cards so we don't have to have a longer video on Monday. Nevertheless, let's get started with this one is the Thief of Sanity, 1 blue and a black for a creature spectre with flying. And whenever it deals combat damage to a player, look at the top 3 cards of that player's library, exile one of those cards face down, then put the rest into the player's graveyard. You may look at it and cast a card for as long as it remains exiled, and you may spend mana, as those were mana of any color, to cast that spell. Overall, pretty decent limited card, I would say that. It's actually a nice flyer, you can have the evasion, plus the fact that you can take stuff from the opponent's deck is actually a really nice rare. I'd say this is a tempting bomb. It's hard because you do have to go straight into a color once you invest in this, but if you can go Dimir, this is actually a really nice Dimir limited card. I'll say that right off the bat. As for standard, there's some people that are trying to say that this is like better than Gonti or the new Gonti. I will have to kind of disagree with that on 2 notes. One, with Gonti, it was an Into the Battlefield effect, so no matter what, you will get a card from the opponent's deck. This, on the other hand, you have to play the creature, hope the creature doesn't get removed, swing in with the creature, hope it doesn't get blocked, deal the combat damage, and then you get the card. Now, the benefit that this has over Gonti is if you have that clause, you can actually repeat this effect for how many times you can attack with him in combat, which is a nice plus. But on the other hand, it really depends on how evasive-centric our meta is. Like, if there's other flyers that people can have, then they can easily block this. Unless there are ways to give this evasion, like maybe Menace or something, or just, like, be able to be unblockable and such, or make a creature not be able to block, then this card just becomes less playable the more you think about it. But yeah, it's cheap, so there is potential for the card to see standard play, but I don't think you should go into best case mentality with this. I think it's one of those that it's a great limited card, and if there is any way to create kind of like a blue-black Flyers Serviera style deck, or even a blue-black Flyers deck, this might just see play in that deck. Also, one thing to keep in mind that is actually a potential detriment, the other cards going into the opponent's graveyard. Now, some may look at that as a benefit, because it is one of those things where intuitively you would think, oh, you take away the opponent's resources, that's good, right? Well, the problem is we have a lot of cards that will synergize with graveyard shenanigans, like in Gagari, even with Izzet with Jumpstart and such, so you might unintentionally assist them more than actually be detrimental to their gameplay strategy. So it's a thought. Overall, really good card, and yet again, my little teeny little rant still applies. It seems like Dimir are getting all the cool new toys. Anyway, there was also a few that got previewed yesterday. This one is the Beacon of Lightning. One is it colors blue and a red for a sorcery. Beacon of Lightning deals damage to target creature equal to the total number of instant sorcery cards you own in exile and in your graveyard. And it also has Jumpstart. Overall, great limited card. If you can somehow get into the Izzet style of deck, where you have a lot of instant sorcery spells, this is actually a pretty decent removal spell, because most decks in Limited are going to be very creature-centric, let's put it like that. And if you have ways to remove those creatures, such as with Beacon of Lightning, that's actually very powerful. I mean, heck, you can at least have 2 instant sorcery cards in the graveyard, and then just... I guess the most optimal way you want this is to be at, like, 3 to maybe even 5. So dealing 3 to 5 damage to a target creature is not bad, and the fact that you can repeat it with Jumpstart is also pretty nice. Overall, I like this card for Limited. In Constructed, probably for very janky, Izzet style Storm, kind of like... Excuse me. For Izzet style, kind of like spell decks, it's a maybe. The problem is the sorcery speed does kind of hurt this card a teeny little bit. But I mean, the factor that this can be that can increase throughout the game to be higher damage to hopefully take out higher creatures is a plus. Overall, though, I think this is more a limited card. If it sees standard play, I would be shocked, but I'm not gonna bet the farm on it. Though, if you do get enough high count on this and do it up to that Boros creature that deals damage to a target player for how much damage gets dealt to her, that's a plus. Anyway. Next up is Assurance and Association. This one I gotta read to make sure I remember all of them. Assurance. Put a 1-1 counter on target creature. That creature gains indestructible until end of turn. And then Association. Blah. Assurance is hybrid mana of green and a white. Association is 4 green and a white. And Association, create free 2/2 white and green elf knight creature tokens with vigilance. Overall, pretty good card. It's hard because we're kind of used to the blossoming defense, like spells and such, and having a 2 cost is very costly. But still, getting a counter on it is actually pretty nice with the indestructibility as well. The problem is, it does not get the creature hexproof, so it is still prone to exile like spell effects like Vraska's Contempt and such. But it should be able to cover most of the removal in the meta, which is kind of nice. Plus, also, if you're playing late game, maybe you're playing a knight deck of some sort, being able to create free 2/2 white and green elf knight tokens with vigilance. Maybe we can make an Abson elf deck a thing thanks to this card. Who knows? It's a nice card. I definitely say it's a good limited. You might feel a little bad pulling this as a rare and limited, but it's a good card. I mean, early game, you can use it to protect the bomb, or late game, you can just build some stuff to help you protect and help protect and go on the offensive. So, overall, good card for limited. In standard, I can see the potential for it. It really is dependent on if token-centric deck can exist. And I do like how Wizards is giving us these tokens, which are a lot more buff, like 2/2s and such, that we can use for Convoke and such, rather than have it be like a bunch of saplings or 1/1s, which, let's be frank, is just going to get Chain World. So, it's nice to see that they have that decision, at least from a constructed format perspective. Next up, Join Shields, free, green and a white. Untap all your creatures. They gain indestructible and hexproof until end of turn, and it's an instant. Overall, it's a nice combat trick for limited, if not a little bit foreshadowing. Like, if people do see you have free, green and a white, they have to keep in mind, oh, they might have this. That could be bad. I might not want to attack in and accidentally kill my creatures off thanks to this or such. So, it is a thought in limited, though I do think it's a good limited card, especially if you're in a mid-range creature deck or even a token-based synergy deck. Being able to untap your creatures and use it as a combat trick to essentially help block with them, and they still stay alive and can hopefully do some efficient trades. That's very nice. Now, in standard and constructed formats, it's a maybe. It really is dependent on if a mid-range, Absent, or even Selesnya deck exists that can actually get the mana to be able to cast this spell. Because this isn't a Convoke or anything. This is a instant spell that you do have to have 5 mana up, which is tricky. It's very, very tricky. I mean, it's not horrible, and the problem is, like, Ritual Suit is 4 mana, so by the time you have the mana for this, somebody might already Ritual Suit you. So unless we have any cheaper ways to give our creatures indestructible, I mean, this is not horrible, but it really is dependent on if it's too slow for the meta. We have to really wait and see. Overall, though, I do see this playing Commander in some decks. And maybe standard play if the meta is slow enough for a mid-range deck, so... Last card they revealed was a common, which is known as Siege Worm. It's a 7 mana spell, 5 and 2 green, creature worm, convoke, and trample. Honestly, this is just a really decent limited card. I mean, it's more like a 23rd card in limited, to be quite frankly honest. But if you're in a token-like deck or even a mid-range deck, this is actually very nice, having a 5/5 with trample. Casting this for 7 mana would kind of stink, but hopefully if you're in the right deck, like a token-centric deck, or maybe even mid-range creature deck in limited, you should be able to get this out a lot more earlier. Like, let's say you have two creatures, and then you could do this on turn 5, which a 5 mana 5/5 with trample, not bad. In constructed, I mean, I don't know if Papa wants this. I don't think they want this. I think there are a lot more efficient creatures that can be used as finishers in that format, but I've been wrong before, and a 5 mana 5/5 with trample or 7 mana and then make it cheaper through maybe different methods in limited and also in Pauper. I would say it's a good 23rd card in limited. In constructed, maybe in Pauper if it finds a deck strategy that wants it, but I'm not 100% sure. Overall, that's all the cards that have been revealed so far. So far now, the spoilers will start back right on Monday, and, well, it's going to be fun to see the rest of the set, because we are about less than 100 cards away from the set being fully revealed, so it'll be interesting to start the set review of that and just go about it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. This is LevDev, signing out.